So just be aware that the session is being recorded. So welcome and thanks for coming to this session for the Central Queensland GEG. I'll just share my screen and we'll do a little bit of stuff on the preparation, and then we'll launch into the presenters that we have this afternoon. I'm hoping someone will let me know if that screen hasn't shared properly. So our topic this afternoon is SAMR, how teachers might be moving from substitution to redefinition. I think the topic of technology integration is really, really important. And there's so much that we need to do in this space to really make technology work for our kids and to improve teaching and learning. So before we jump in and hear from our presenters this afternoon, let's just take a couple of minutes to look at SAMR and what it's all about. So on the left there, you can see that the 20th century model was about information flowing to the student through the teacher. So it was a pretty linear model. In 2021, with our ability with kids with devices, it's no longer a linear model, and we are no longer the center of what it's all about. So for us, to coin a phrase from Parramatta, our job is teacher as teacher, as well as teacher as learner. And that's never more true than in something like digital technologies, where teachers will say to me, they've got no idea. Similarly in STEM, they're not really confident. Well, together we can learn with the kids, using the internet, using the tools at our disposal to still have great teaching and learning. So the SAMR model, the SAMR framework, is based on an acronym: substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. So just take a minute or two to have a look at each of those, so that as our speakers go through their thing, you'll get some understanding of how we move from substitution to redefinition. So as you can see there, substitution, the technology acts as a direct tool substitute with no functional change. Right? I guess that's the starting point for all of us. It's how we go about getting stuff digital. So substitution, starting point for everything. We then look at augmentation, where technology still acts as a direct tool substitute, but there's some functional improvement. And as we go through the presentations, they're the things you should be looking at. What are we seeing that's different using this tool that's going to improve teaching and learning? Modification, right? So now the technology allows for some significant task redesign. So here you see, using peer feedback, creating mind maps, which accompany, that typed task. Just excuse me one sec, I admit someone here. Right. And then we move to redefinition. So redefinition allows the creation of new tasks previously inconceivable. So you'll see here, we're talking about collaboration, we're talking about YouTube videos, blog posts, authentic audiences, right? That's all part of how we get to a student-centered classroom where, the technology is really working for us. It's important to highlight this, though, that moving to those upper levels of SAMR, the M and the R, the modification, the redefinition, really do help to create more authentic, rigorous, meaningful, and student-centered learning experiences. And I'm sure you'll hear that as our presenters go through and do their thing. But what it is also important to remember is that redefinition is not the goal of everything that we do. It's in fact probably just too taxing for us to be able to do that. It's something that we try to get to when we can, but we're not always going to get there. So you don't have to think that on everything we do, we're talking about getting to redefinition. But in any case, we're going to switch over to our speakers now. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a sec and just ask before I go on, if anyone wants to ask any questions about that SAMR framework before I move on. And we've only got a small group, so feel free to unmute and ask away, make comment away. All right, nothing there. Okay, good. So our first presenter this afternoon is Ange Robinson. So Ange is out at St. Bridget's in Emerald. So Ange's goal in life, I guess, is engaging students in meaningful, purposeful and motivating learning experiences while working towards relevant, clear learning goals. And that drives the learning experiences in her classroom. So first up this afternoon, Ange is going to talk about going global. So Ange, over to you.
Okay, hello, everybody. The first thing I thought I'd talk about, and I'm just going to tell a story of it evolving for my practice, is where it ended up as mystery Skypes and expert visitors to our classroom. So it's sort of two things, but if I go back to where it started, so back in 2008, I was in Gladstone and we were at a Reef Guardian school. So I was a Reef Guardian coordinator, and my class were really passionate about Reef Guardians, and I wanted a guest speaker. So I was able to organise a marine biologist from Reef HQ in Townsville to speak to the children. And he was happy to, they had facilities to do a dive in a shark tank and to talk to us while he was diving. From my end, sitting in Gladstone, I had to arrange all the technology and we had to travel into the university campus. So I had to arrange an excursion and all the paperwork that goes with that. I had to go in one afternoon after work and test all the tech gear with employees at the university, coordinate that with Reef HQ, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There was a lot of work and preparation that went into preparing that learning experience for the children until the day of the actual excursion. And then I took my class in and we sat in one of the lecture theatres and we Skyped the marine biologist who was diving and swimming in the shark tank at the time and talking to the students, and they were listening. So I'd sort of pre-prepared a bit of a script with him. So that was 2008. And I guess skip forward 10 years, and I'm pretty sure it was exactly 10 years, 2018. And again, I'm in a Reef Guardian school. It's a bit of a theme of mine. I'm a Reef Guardian coordinator at school in Bundaberg, and able to, at the touch of a couple of buttons, Skype in with those same marine biologists diving in the shark tank, having just had a couple of emails exchanged, and that was all turning on my computer, making sure that our big interactive TV was on, and that scientist was able to talk to our class, and not only talk to our class, but we could ask him questions directly. So the kids sat in the classroom, they could ask questions of that scientist directly, and he would swim around the tank and pick up things and give them close-ups, etc. He had a GoPro and he had another person in the tank with him with a camera, and he could speak directly to them. So it was like they were in the tank with the marine biologists. So I guess I just thought I'd share that story because it contrasts, in that 10 years was a lot of effort and something you wouldn't do very often when I did it in 2008. But by 2018, it was just, a couple of emails and that's it. And we were able to do it 2 or 3 times that year. So as the children needed new information or whatever it was we were working on, I could arrange for them to speak with the experts up at Reef HQ. And one of the visits, there was about 3 or 4 schools involved. So not only were they connecting with the marine biologists, but we were also connecting with 3 or 4 other classes around the state. So that sort of really, redefined the experience, and we could bring that guest, that expert scientist into our classroom, or probably more accurate, he could take us into the shark tank, into the tanks with him, and we could look at so much stuff. So I think there's so much potential there for us to connect with experts and do things like that. And it really was such a different experience organising it in 2018 as to 2008, when it was a lot of work. Which takes me to going more global, so outside of our state, and something like mystery Skypes. So I know some schools have used them. I'm in upper primary, so looking at some of the HASS skills and in particular questioning. I've found it to be a really engaging way to introduce the teaching of that skill. Open-ended questions, closed questions, etc. How to write good questions, how to narrow down your questions. And a mystery Skype, for those of you who don't know, is you connect with a teacher that's somewhere else in the world, and you arrange a time and a day, and you know where they are, but you don't tell your class. So you set your class up with a couple of teams. You'll have some question writers, you'll have people on the maps, you'll have there's heaps, there's quite a few different teams. You'll have some runners that are running new questions. Everyone gets scheduled on to come and sit in front of the computer and have a turn talking to the children wherever they are in the world. And it's a game of like guess who. So you've got to narrow down where the other class is in the world before they find out where you are. And you can only ask questions with a yes or no answer. So you've got your mapping team, and generally classes they'll start with, are you in the Northern Hemisphere? So as soon as they get a yes or a no, you've narrowed it down to one hemisphere. The kids that are working on the map start to generate new questions based off the information they're given. And you work as a team, and while you're getting a yes answer, you can ask another question. And then when you get a no answer, you stop and it's the other class's turn, and it's a race. So it's highly engaging. It's only, the fact that we've brought this technology, and I've never done on the Zoom, but you could, that we've brought this technology into our classroom that you could play it. I have done mystery Skypes with classes in Canada, Yellowstone National Park, New Zealand, all over Asia. Asia has a handy time zone. So the Yellowstone National Park, the teacher had the kids stayed after school, but that was easy because it was a school where all the children, their parents were employees of the park. So they all lived in housing in the park. So it was quite easy for them to come back after school and do a mystery Skype with us here in Australia. It's Canada too. It ended up being a teacher I connected with, but she ran an after school extracurricular group. So we actually did it with her after school extracurricular group. And I've done one where we actually had a translator, an interpreter sitting in, I think she was in Manila, and we had a class in China. So she was translating. So we were in 3 different countries completing a mystery Skype. And that was really great for our year 6s at the time to see that process in action. And we actually mystery Skyped with a class of grade 2s in China. So their teacher was not English speaking, but that she had the interpreter who was in Manila from memory, but that might be wrong. So again, really easy to organise, and I just reach out on social media when I'm looking for mystery Skype. Lots of lower primary classrooms do it to form those, give a sense of that global community, lots of geography to explore, but also to give a sense of that global community, work on questioning. And lower primary classes often tend to do, guess the mystery number or the mystery whatever. I think mystery number is quite popular. And you can start small. You can start with someone else in this diocese, and that's like Paul was saying, it's about us being the learner. So I was nervous doing the first one. I sort of had all the jobs and what to do, but I hadn't done it. And the technology was a bit not as reliable. This is about 5 or 6 years ago. So it was a bit scary, but you just launch in and you talk to the kids about that, and they see you in action and being resilient when things go wrong. And it's highly engaging, and really redefine some of my HASS lessons. That's that.
Guys, any questions for Ange?
When you said you reach out on social media, like what platforms?
I use Twitter.
Yeah, radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would suggest there's lots of educators using Twitter, and it's pretty easy to find, something on Twitter. Would you agree, Ange?
Yeah, and you just search the hashtag mystery Skypes, mystery Hangouts. People used to, use Google Hangouts. As someone tweeted the other day from Melbourne was looking for a mystery Skype, so we're actually doing one in a couple of weeks with class in Melbourne.
So can I just ask, are you doing that from your classroom, or are you doing that from your Zoom room at school?
From the classroom?
Okay.
I've only ever done them from the classroom. Yeah.
Well, it's just that every school now theoretically has a Zoom room where you can take your 30 kids, big screen, a camera that can show everyone rather than from your laptop. But I mean, it's all good. It doesn't matter which way you do it. I don't suppose.
Well, I guess I hadn't thought about that. So good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, so, all right, any other questions for Ange?
I have one just about, I think this is coming from a bit of a child protection area. How do they verify that the teachers are actually teachers and that they're included in this
Question.
sort of thing? Yeah.
That's a good question. So we're always using our professional work emails, and you're attached to a school. So you have a couple of emails backwards and forwards with that teacher. And I always go in and check the school website, and, you know, you talk some teacher things about school and about your class. Similarly, I've done on Flipgrid Grid Pals. And so I've been doing Grid Pals with that teacher for 3 years now. So I know her quite well in the school she's connected to, but our students change each year. And that's like a pen pal program, just using Flipgrid.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thanks for that. So thanks, Ange. Terrific session to start us off. So we're going to head to Emerald again, to Renee Miles. So Renee is at Marist College Emerald, and she's been teaching junior design there for the last 3 years and loves the process of finding a solution to a problem that hasn't been used before. And she's going to talk about design through Minecraft.
Yep. All right, thanks, Paul. So I think it was about last year, start of the year, my head of department was obviously at another school, and they were using Minecraft to create, I think it was a moon landing, and he thought it just looked absolutely awesome and came back and said that we really needed to be doing that and threw it at me. And I'm like, okay, sure. I thought Minecraft was just a program my kids played, but yep, okay, we can use it for learning. So making it a semester-long unit, we then needed to work out what 2 units we could put together with it. So I thought, materials and food and fibre would probably work with that concept. And so we hit the kids up with their self-isolating. COVID sort of half turned up at a useful time for that sort of thing, giving a reason to isolate and how they can sustain themselves when they are isolating. Being the fact that it's a program kids are usually just playing for fun. Every time I talk to a parent, they were all concerned, like friends of mine, they were concerned of, they would not be convinced that Minecraft is a learning tool. They figured that kids would just be playing games and there would be no value in it. So when I first set it up, I thought, well, if we put the coding in, that would have a lot of significant use for linking it in with digital. Problem was the kids weren't very good at coding, and it was heavy coding to try and get through all the work. And so they were spending a lot of time trying to do this coding that isn't really part of design, it's part of digital. So like this semester now is the second time round we're doing it. So I've dumped the coding, going, it's not worth it. And then to keep the parents on side, I figured if I send lots of emails, they know what's going on, they know what the expectations are, telling them what the assessment is and keeping them right in the loop would keep them on side, which worked. I didn't get any complaints last term, which I was really happy about. So we had the students create their own world in Minecraft, because I wasn't really familiar with, like, there's a separate one where the teachers have a lot more control, but I wasn't quite sure how to run that last semester. So I got the kids to do it, and they were working in pairs. So one would create the world, the other one would join it. Problem was, if you had a kid who was away that day and they were the one hosting, then the other kid couldn't get in, and then they were trying to email them at home going, can you please let me in? And then we had internet issues. Strangely enough, some classrooms were worse than others. So we'd have kids going down to IT almost every lesson, going, okay, we can't get in, we're getting logged out. They'd get logged in at IT, they would come back, they'd walk into the room and get disconnected again. The amount of kids who ended up sitting outside the classroom because somehow that was better connectivity than inside the classroom. And so then, of course, being a design program, some of them, they were really good at building it in Minecraft, but would not do the accompanying paperwork and the evaluations and the stuff they were actually getting marked on. That was a fun one to try and deal with. And then they'd flick over into survival mode and play instead of building anything. So this term, I've put a bit more effort into learning the classroom mode so that they can't change what mode they're in. They're all in the world I created. So we'll see how that goes. Haven't started that one yet, but it was really good. The kids all loved it. They were all excited to be doing it. The designs they were coming up with were really cool, and the kids really loved it. And it gave them a more hands-on way to do it, whereas usually you would just draw it on paper, or we were using SketchUp, which is a lot more complicated. So it gave them something they were used to using, and enabling them to show what they could do was really great. Yep.
Right. So any questions for Renee?
Yeah, I have one. Is this Minecraft Education? I think it's called.
EDU. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Minecraft Education.
So one of our problems in the past has been that Minecraft EDU works really well from our iPads, and there's been a bit of a problem with our Chromebooks, but I think they've sorted that out now. So, you know, theoretically, it should be able to be worked from both sides. And, you know, it's great to hear Renee talk about the pitfalls, you know, so this isn't a sales pitch to say, go and use it. It's a warts and all kind of thing. And just as Anne said, you know, it's modeling the problems that we face and how we face them to kids. And I think that's really, really important to get out and have a crack. If it goes awry, move on to plan B. So are you looking at doing those walkthroughs that we discussed at the end of this unit?
Yeah, and we'll get them to talk through at this time, yeah.
Right, so the kids will create a walkthrough, so they'll create a movie, walking through and using that as their, I guess, their evaluation or their justifications, their reasoning. So rather than having to write it, they're creating a video, which should kind of work well, I hope. Yeah. All right, that's great, Renee, thanks. I think that's a really engaging product. So now we're going to go to Lauren. Lauren's also an Emerald at St. Pat's. She's a second-year teacher. She's been fortunate to have been given the opportunity for many professional development moments to further her technology knowledge. She's been using Vivi and hasn't stopped learning about how Vivi helps her in the classroom. So, Lauren, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. I am, as I said in my little intro, I'm extremely lucky that I have been given a school that's been very welcoming of my want to learn for more technology. So last year we had 2 VVs at the school. I just saw it on an app. And I said to Jess, our IT lady, I said, hey, are those actually being used? Like, there's no classrooms with them. Can I have one? She's like, yes, they're not being used. I'll give you one. Let's go. So I was the first one at the school to get one in the classroom, and my kids last year absolutely loved it. They loved the fact that they could see all this different stuff with me at the back of the room, while I could then be looking at what they were doing and help them whilst I had my iPad on, so I could just move around with my iPad. It was really easy access for everything that we were doing. We work a lot of PowerPoints, a lot of YouTube, a lot of Google Drive, just able to flick through things really, really quickly. And I wasn't having to be connected to a HDMI cord or another cord. It was just a pain. It was also a really big health and safety issue attaching to our interactive whiteboard. It was bad. And so earlier in the year, Jess knew that I wanted to learn more about it. And she'd sent me this Yammer thread that Cathode uses about and Vivi used to let you know what's going on with the app. And they had actually done webinars. So I put my name down to watch the first webinar, and it was literally just a basics. I think it was a 30-40 minute webinar with John Pendergast. He is brilliant at explaining it. It was really good. I went into it kind of thinking I may not know anything new from this, but I'll just get some more hints. I came out of it with about 3 things that I wanted to try that I had never even thought Vivi could do. One of the main ones was that I can actually assess my kids through Vivi. So I can do a live assessment with the kids whilst they have their Vivi open on their Chromebooks, and they can actually do it right in front of me. So might have a question on the board for multi-choice, and they'll have their VVs logged into on their iPads to connect to the classroom, and all their names on it because it's in their Cath Ed email and everything, so they can't change their name to anything silly. And they basically just answer the questions. And the good thing with that is I actually get a report back. So your VV links back to a class like dashboard where your VVs are attached to it and all your reports and your usage is connected. So I can actually go on, say, at report card time and go, I need to look at all those formative assessments questions that I did just to check where so-and-so was at. I can go on and do that, which is really, really handy. It also is got an option to do little health and well-being questions, just little check-in questions, like literally something as simple as, how did you feel about today's lesson? And you literally just pick an emoji face, and it's just a little bit of anonymity that the kids don't necessarily get by doing other things in the classroom, like thumbs up, thumbs down, things on desks. It just gives them a little bit more anonymity because nobody can see that report except for me. So I was really, really impressed with what John had done in that first webinar. So I actually signed up to do teaching for best practice. So it's like the next level up. It's kind of more for the IT personnel, I will admit. It was a little heavy on the IT side, but there was definitely stuff that I hadn't sort of learnt about in the first one that I definitely like using. And John, I have found he is brilliant with letting me know if I'm doing something wrong, or if I send him an email in the morning at 8 o'clock and go, hey, John, I'm having this issue with ClickView. He will get back to me within an hour and he will give me a full list of things that I can try. He is brilliant and he's the guy that I go to if I need any help. The only thing with VV that they are fixing is that we are getting a new app. So we're getting the beta version, which I'm currently testing for the school now, because there's a few of us here at St. Pat's that have got VV now just because they've all kind of seen my classroom and gone, we want that. The beta version is the brand new one. So they've re-updated VV to make it a lot more user accessible and a lot prettier. And it's got a few little glitches that the kids have noticed, definitely, and I've kind of noticed, and it's, again, a different system, but it's very similar. So there's definitely little things that go awry. The pitfalls, I think, are, and they're very rare, but things like if I want to put a documentary on from Disney Plus, like those National Geographic ones, they won't actually work through VV because Disney Plus and Netflix and things have deals with Chromecast. It won't actually work. So I do have to go back to the old fashioned and still connect. So I still have to have that option to connect to the computer that I'm using, which is a little bit frustrating because you do have to kind of switch back and forward. But most things I find that the kids really like it. I can pause my screen really, really quickly and pause it straight away, and I can be doing something on my computer whilst there's something on the screen. I can quickly do the roll while they've got their morning routine up. YouTube's great because I can put on a 20-minute YouTube on Play Direct and I can be working for 20 minutes on my laptop without the kids even knowing about it, which is great. I think the VV webinars are the best thing that they've done. They do them every term and they're basically the same model each term. John does a little bit different ones if you ask the right questions. So if you go into it asking questions that you do really want to know, he will kind of direct it more into those questions. He does like questions. But I think VV has been a really big tool that has then lended me to explore other areas of technology in the classroom. It's very much the base for my classroom. If I didn't have VV, there's so many things that I wouldn't necessarily enjoy doing. But yeah, that's probably it from me.
That's great, Lauren. Thank you for that. Great to see you're passionate about it. And it's a good thing to know that if you do at some stage move on from St. Pat's at Emerald, that most of our schools have VV in every classroom.
Yeah.
So I just went to see if I could check out your VV use. I can find every school. I can bring up a dashboard and show them. The only school I can't is St. Pat's Emerald. So
I think we've got 9 VV networks, I think. and I definitely get a few calls a day
Yeah.
from different teachers going, we need some help, but it's super good and everyone's really, really keen to learn it. So I think the hard thing for us is that we're not a one-to-one school. We don't have like iPads and things for each child. So it's not what's the word? It's not a seamless transition from a formative assessment. I do have to kind of pre-plan it and get them ready for it. But yeah, that's probably that's probably an individual school thing, like whether or not you have an individual iPads and things.
Yeah, but even if you're a school that had no devices, as a way to display wirelessly, a great tool, and really has an ability to transform learning. So that's great. Thanks, Lauren. So look, we're going to go back to Ange now, and Ange is going to talk to us about Edpuzzle.
So Edpuzzle, it could even be, I don't know, maybe a little bit more redefinition maybe than augmentation, or the other way around, But I guess what I really like about Edpuzzle is it's just wonderful. It's a really wonderful tool as part of a universally designed classroom. So we're all aiming for that universal design for learning to be truly inclusive, and tools like Edpuzzle. And we have a new ClickView subscription. So just today I've realized that ClickView videos with a subscription also have this capacity. So we tried our first one with ClickView this afternoon, and I haven't had a chance to go back and have a look at the teacher dashboard and check it out. But so I'll explain Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle's free. I've never used the paid version. I've had it for many years. I can go and so you would just Google it, Edpuzzle, all one word. You can import your class through from Google Classroom, and it basically just lets you take YouTube clips. It's got Khan Academy clips. It's got a whole file of their own, but you can just dump a YouTube link in there and make the video interactive. So you can edit it, you can stop it and add annotations, you can record yourself explaining something at a particular point in a video, you can add questions, you can add open-ended questions, short answer questions, multiple choice, true, false, etc. You put in the correct answer, and so therefore it'll go and mark those multiple choice questions, etc. And what I really like is that it can give the kids immediate feedback. So we know they learn best from their mistakes when they have some immediate feedback. So if you've written an explanation as to why a particular answer was correct, say in a multiple choice, they'll see that explanation, so they get that immediate feedback. I think that feature is really valuable. And at the end, so any open-ended questions you've embedded throughout the video, you can just easily scroll through your class on the dashboard and interpret them for yourself, mark them, etc. You can trim videos. So that's Edpuzzle, and I think it's really valuable. It's really easy to use, so it's worth a play. And like I said, ClickView, we've just done it this afternoon with a video on democracy. So I just found the ClickView video that we were using and went in and I put some annotations. So I paused the video, and it didn't have a function where I could record myself. I couldn't find. So I do like to be able to offer the children something to read or listen to, so truly make it more, universally designed. So, but I wrote some annotations because I wanted to further explain a concept that just come up in the video. Whereas Edpuzzle will let you record, and I can talk about a particular concept so the children could listen to me talking. And closed captions, like lets you put captions on, etc. So Edpuzzle's free. Like I said, it feeds backwards and forwards to Google Classroom, and I recommend it. The kids can go back and watch. So sorry, I should have mentioned that. It's really student-centered in the way that they can go back and listen, and you can set it so they can't go past a particular question till they've answered it. And they can go back. So if someone needs to go back and listen 3 times to be able to answer a question, they've got that within their power, and the children who don't, rather than us all sitting down and watching the same video at the same time. That's me.
That's great, Ange. Any questions for Ange about Edpuzzle?
I have one. It's just regarding like how the kids access it. So do they then make an account with Edpuzzle? Do they log in? Is it just added to our Google Classroom? Like how do the kids access those videos?
So you can put a link on Google Classroom.
Yep.
And something like that would be it's login with Google. So anything with a login with Google button. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
And I guess the key feature of Edpuzzle is for that one-to-one classroom, isn't it?
Yes, mind you, I'm not in a one-to-one classroom, but we're sort of just strategic in making sure we can get one-to-one devices. Yeah. I mean, you could collaborate it, so headphone splitters, and you could have the two children on the same video, and then they're discussing the answers when the video stops. So you could make it collaborative.
Yeah, I had a bit of a look at it today, and I was able to bring in one of my Screencastify videos, which I thought was a great segue, because I'm going to go straight after this. So any other questions for Angie about Edpuzzle? Renee, are you aware of anyone using it at Marist?
No, I haven't heard of anyone using it.
Yeah, so I think it's just a great tool to make sure that YouTube is not just there for entertainment, but it's there to, you know, as a tool to get responses from kids and just making them stop and think at strategic points through the video.
Yeah.
Is that how you'd see it, Ange?
Exactly. Yeah. It makes it, it really drives home using the video for learning. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for that. So look, I'm going to share the screen with you, and I'm going to talk about Screencastify. So I don't know how many of you have used Screencastify, but Screencastify is a Chrome extension. So if you have a look up here in my toolbar, that's the Screencastify sitting up there. So Screencastify is a Chrome extension, right? So the key feature there is that you don't need to get IT to install it. Both students and teachers can install, for want of a better word, the Chrome extension, but that doesn't require any IT support. It integrates fully with Google Workspace, which is now the new name for GAFE or G Suite or whatever. It's now called Google Workspace, because it creates its own folder there called Screencastify in your drive. So every time you create a video, it goes into your drive, and so then it can easily be integrated with Google Slides, with Google Classroom, and it's just brilliant. So if we just have a quick look at it, click on there. So we can webcam only, desktop, whatever. I normally use desktop. I don't use my face, but for this purpose, we'll just go through. There's a little bit of configuration you've got to do, simple configuration. But when I press record, it'll count down 3, 2, 1, and then I'm live. So let's just try that. And it's not going to work because I'm already using my webcam here, but that's good. So once you've gone through and recorded something, as I said, it goes into your Google Drive, and then you can then be inserted it into Google Classroom or Slides. So I think it's great for differentiation, to provide a different way for the kids who need the audio, the visual, those sorts of things. And the other thing I'm really surprised about is that lots of teachers will tell me, well, we used it through lockdown last year, but we stopped. And I'm not sure why we would stop. I think it still should be a part of our blended classroom. So we just have a look here. I'm just going to go to a classroom that I've got. And we go to classwork. So assuming I was teaching some science and I was working the kids through science rotations, we know that if you're working through science rotations or maths or English and you provide those instructions to kids, by the time you've given the third lot of instructions, everyone's forgotten what you wanted the kids to do. So if you click here, so I've got some instructions there, and then here's my Screencastify video that with me saying to those kids again, group 1, this is what I want you to do. We go to group 2, here's some different stuff. Here's the video for group 2. Group 2, this is what I want you to do. And they can listen to it, just like Anne said before, they can listen to it over and over and over again. And science rotation 3, here's what I want you to do in group 3. So as soon as they forget, all they're going to do is click on that and listen to my instructions again. And so I can be working with those other groups around the place, but I've duplicated myself a number of times in the classroom. So I'm still working with group 1 through the video. I'm still working with group 2 through the video. Obviously there's no interaction, but I'm still there to be able to tell them, this is what you need to do to stay on task. So as far as SAMR is concerned, you know, like, I think this is really just adding some functional improvement. It's really just about some augmentation. So from the teacher's perspective, that's one way I would use it. For the kids' perspective, I think it's a great way for them to go through and create some explainer videos. So if you need them to articulate their thinking in maths or science or English, any subject for that matter, all they're going to do is quickly click on the link, the extension up there, right? They can go through, they can create a short video, save it, share it with you, hand it back in through Google Classroom if you like, and there you have some explainer videos that you can perhaps use, share with other kids for some peer tutoring, but it's just a way to articulate their thinking rather than writing it down or typing it out in a Google Doc. Screencastify, a brilliant tool. Questions? Is anyone using Screencastify?
Paul, my video is not coming back on, but we
That's
used
all
it
right,
when
Emily.
we used it when we had home learning.
Yep. And it was great. It was great then, wasn't it?
Yeah, we just put up the timetable for every day, and in the morning, like, go through and like have us, like, here's where you find it. You have to go to Google Classroom, then you go here.
Yep.
Now you open this, and ran through that timetable for the day with them,
Yep.
which was really effective actually. So it's very good for those type of situations.
Yep.
Yeah.
But do you think it still has an application for you now? Are you in a one-to-one classroom there, Emily?
No, we have 6 iPads in our classroom. Yeah.
Right. But so you would use those iPads in some sort of rotations, probably?
Oh, yeah, we use them in rotations. So yeah, we can like make little thing. If we make little videos, we want to watch them, we just put them into the Google Classroom. They could do it during a rotation.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you for that, Emily. And I think the key thing is that when we make those short videos, we're not trying to make a Hollywood production. Give the instructions and press stop recording. You know, don't try to have, you know, some major Hollywood production that's going to take you hours to produce. That defeats the purpose, right? You want to just get something that's going to be effective for the kids and go from there. So look, before we move on then, so the SAMR model, substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. Are we a little bit closer to thinking about how we might do something in our classroom that's going to make more out of the technology than we were before? Lauren, can I put you on the spot then? What do you think you might do other than really nail that VV hard and make it work for you?
I've been using it to reconfigure the kids' learning about formative assessment. Formative assessment isn't necessarily a test every week.
No.
It's something quick, it's something easy, and that's what the VV is. I've been doing learning as well with Google. I'm trying to become a Google educator, so I think that with the kids and learning how they can learn Google, not just me use Google to show them, it's but them how to use it.
Yep.
So it's just making sure that they understand the tools in front of them. Like,
yep.
Sure, I might record a video with Screencastify, that's great, but
yep.
Now it's your turn to do that because now you're learning it as well.
Yep. Yep. Look, and that's a great segue. Thanks for that, because where we go from here, and I'm assuming you can see that. So Chris Betcher, who works with Google, would normally join us for these sessions, and fortunately for us, he's quite often presented at our GEGs, but he's got something else on today. So he asked me whether I could put this out to you. So I will, when I share the link to the video that's going to go on YouTube, I'll also share this slide because if you just click on the slide, when you get it, you'll see down the bottom, just down here, that picture is a link to the doc, is the information about the Certified Innovator for 2021. Now, not everyone can be a Certified Innovator. You have to have done the level 1 and the level 2 courses, but you can do that as part of the whole process. So there's a whole program here that they're trying to get people to apply for the Certified Innovator program. Look, it is a brilliant program. I've applied a couple of times, just haven't been able to get there. That's all good though. I've done the level 1, I've done the level 2 a couple of times. The skills that are required in the Certified Innovator are really about putting all these skills that we're talking about now into use to produce some good learning outcomes for kids. Where the Cert 1 or the level 1 and the level 2 might be more about using the technology, it's still about using the technology purposefully. The Certified Innovator is about really coming up with a project that is going to make some difference for kids. So I would encourage you to think about that. And when I share it, at least have a look through and see whether there's something there that you might be able to consider doing, whether it's just taking on the level 1, the level 2 and doing the Certified Innovator next year, but certainly give it some thought. All right, so before we wrap the afternoon up, does anyone want to ask any questions, make any comments?
Paul, I'll just mention I'm doing that level 1 training at the moment. It's actually through CathEd, but it's through CathEd Australia. So I'm in a Google Classroom with people all around Australia. And it's really good. I highly, highly recommend it. I think my goal will be it's getting to that innovator program. And I think my school's really on board with me doing that. So it's great. I think that level 1, the level 1's good because it just gives you the basics, but it gives you that little bit more. And there are things like Google Drive. I thought, it's Google Drive. There's not very much to do with Google Drive. Yeah, there's some more stuff. It's always just nice to have those little extra bits in your back pocket.
Yep, that's great. And yeah, the cost of it. I mean, to do the level 1, I think it costs you $10. To do the level 2 costs you $25. So as far as certification goes, it's cheap as chips. The other thing just to be wary of, guys, is you'll start getting some notifications on your Google Drive very, very shortly about how Google is going to be applying some security settings to your drive. So I'll also send out a link that you can have a look at that explains what all that's about. I don't have the time now, but basically what they're doing is just putting a random number, a resource key on the end of all your link sharing so that your links can't be guessed, so people can't get into your drive. So it's all about security. And hopefully through your IT staff, through your APCs, perhaps even some more information about that will come out in the coming weeks. So look, I'd really like to thank our Emerald contingent who have done all the presenting for this GEG. So Ange Robinson from St. Bridget's, Renee Miles from Marist College, and Lauren Krause from St. Pat's. Thanks very much for putting your hand up and putting yourselves out there. I know it takes a fair bit of doing, but that's what we need to do as teachers. So thanks for that. Thanks for those people who have come along. I know we've got a few people from outside the diocese who've joined us. We didn't get to say good day to earlier on, so thank you for turning up. And I'll send the details of this recording, the link to that slide so you can see more about the Google Innovator Program and also the information about Google Drive. So look, thanks guys. I hope it's been worthwhile. And if there's anything we can do to help you, just shout. Thanks much, Lee.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Emerald represent.
Thanks, Paul.
Well, it's nearly a total Emerald show with, or ex-Emerald show, Emily.
Oh, well, it wasn't quite Emerald, Clermont. I don't know if they'd like it if you called them Emerald.
Okay, Central Western Queensland then?
It's a place of innovation.
That's it. That's it. Good on you, Francis. Thanks for joining us.
See ya.
All right. Thanks for that.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Paul.